XDefiant is coming out in the weeks to follow, and the gaming community is patiently waiting. Myself and the boys at NoFill came together and made a list for 5 things you should be excited for that day 1 release. I'm going to be going in depth for all 5 of these reasons and why they are fundamental for the success of XDefiant. Before we do get into the first reason, I just want to take the time to let you know here at NoFill we will be covering, making awesome entertainment, and streaming a lot of XDefiant throughout the journey of the game's life cycle. So don't be scared to hit the sub button and follow us through this journey and join the brotherhood. The first reason is the one I'm most excited for, and that's the gameplay and quality of life. The gameplay looks super promising with things like higher TTK, which makes for longer gunfights. Up close you need to use your skill and find ways that you can maneuver the fight to win it. And long range, maybe sitting on a heady that you like and trying to rip off heads. A new movement change that I love is no more going prone. I've never seen that before in a game. I really like the idea of that. That'll cancel out all drop shotting. For any campers trying to hide behind things, eliminate any of that from the game, which I really like. The slide mechanic seems to not be OP, but effective, and you'll be able to use it in certain spots where I think will really benefit you. If you played the beta, you know the guns really don't feel that much different than any shooter out there. I don't think that's good or bad. And on the quality of life side of things, the number one thing I can see out there when people talk about this game is the skill-based matchmaking. I know people are very excited for that to be eliminated out of this game. I'm not going to talk too much on the topic because I am not the biggest hater on skill-based matchmaking. I consider myself a sweat without a ton of friends, so I'll be playing a lot more League play, but I know the community is really excited for this. A couple other things to bring up is red dots coming back on the mini maps. We've been without it on a couple CODs, and I know it's really frustrating. Quiet footsteps, one other thing that COD has been getting a lot of hate for. With the quiet footsteps, you'll obviously be able to move around the map and make plays freely. And the last one that I need to bring up is the factions and the abilities. These are going to be an awesome way to mix up your playstyle as long as with your loadouts. You'll actually need to think and combine combinations which will best fit your loadout. And I can't wait to see how the ultimates will impact the game, especially in a couple months of its life cycle. Those are all the things for gameplay and quality of life. I'm super excited to see how this game feels, plays, especially, like I mentioned, a couple months into its life cycle. It'll be super interesting to see how people take advantage of the abilities, the alts, the weapons, the movement, and I'm super excited to see what happens. On to number 4, maps and modes. XDefiant is not too dissimilar in lots of ways to all the other shooters we played throughout the years. There is one distinct new feature that excites me a lot, the progression maps, which are very vertical and the same horizontally as maps you played throughout the years. After playing the beta, I found these maps played really well with no cheeky ways of exploiting the map or dumb flanks or just sitting in this one spot, so I'm really hopeful with these maps and how they'll play out. With the cool new addition of these progression maps, there are 2 game modes at the moment we know of, Escort and Zone Control. Escort is an inspiration of the game mode Push from Overwatch. The attacking teams need to progressively move the payload from one side of the map to the other. With checkpoints along the way, if achieved by the attackers, time will be added to the game clock and new spawns will be given to both teams. Zone Control, the other game we could play in the beta, also inspired by a different game in Battlefield. The attackers need to capture 2 objectives. If they do, 2 new objectives will spawn. Same thing, capture 2 new objectives, that's 6 in total, and that's a win. Both these game modes I feel like will add so much strategy and you'll need to actually play off your teammates and use your ults wisely and know your weapons and your loadouts. There's not a whole lot to say about the arena game modes. We've all played the traditional hard points, domination, control, team deathmatch, you know the story. With the upgrades in quality of life and maybe some great spawns, these game modes could be a lot of fun. At number 3, we got competitive. With the release of ranked play coming out day 1, the team at XDefiant is prioritizing the importance of ranked play in the game's success. Ubisoft has already produced one game still making waves almost 10 years after its release in Rainbow Six Siege, and the competitive nature of that game has kept it on the run it's been able to find. Other games, Valorant, Overwatch, CSGO, and many others are still alive on the successes of their competitive play. They need to capitalize on this and not let it go to waste. With the XCOD pros helping the development of this game, this will encourage the priorities of ranked play, and I think this is super important for XDefiant's success. Shout out Patrick Akes. One super encouraging thing for this ranked play could be the addition of those progressive maps and modes. Those could be so much fun and it's a dynamic we've never seen before. Along with those game modes, the developers at XDefiant have also been teasing multiple One Life game modes. We all love a good search and destroy game, but if they came out with variants for S&D, that adds so much intrigue and potential for ranked play. One thing I do have to mention before we move on, and is unfortunately a huge worry of mine, is the game being free to play could add so much potential for cheaters and hackers. I don't know much about the anti-cheat that they've set up right now in their game, but this is something to worry about, and honestly has me a little scared. Once again, unfortunately, this is a big concern for me. I do hope Ubisoft has an idea for an anti-cheat and can utilize it well. At number 4, Mark Rubin, the mastermind behind the operation. In Mark we trust. A little background check on this guy. I think he was the producer of a little studio called Infinity Ward. Remember the glory days of Call of Duty? Well, he was behind the making of our childhoods. He has had his hand in behind the making of the original MW, MW2, and MW3. The man is responsible for making 3 out of the 5 best Call of Duties ever made. Mr. Rubin has been on the front line for XDefiant, being straight up with the community. He hasn't been scared to communicate back with Twitter, even putting polls together for us players to vote on changes and things we liked in the prior 2 playtests. Another super promising thing for XDefiant is it's been in the works for almost half a decade. Supposed to release back in 2019, I believe this is the best thing for it that did not happen. If it would have released on the date mentioned, it would have to compete with Warzone and Fortnite. That's a task I would never want to put myself up against. This is the best time right now for the release of XDefiant. Call of Duty is as dry as a desert. Overwatch was just announced as the worst reviewed game in Steam history. I personally have super high hopes for Mark and the team at Ubisoft. I hope they knock this game out of the park. And if they don't do that, then I gotta put all my attention to MW3, and I don't want to do that. And for the last reason on this list, I have the XDefiant roadmap. The first year of XDefiant will bring 4 seasons to the game, all in their own theme and content. New seasons will introduce new fractions and content such as weapons, maps, and a fresh new battle pass. XDefiant's battle pass will be 90 tiers, bringing things like new consumables and more. Ubisoft has already unveiled the codenames for the 4 fractions that will be coming in this calendar year: Ruby, Buzz, Orchard, and Horde. While there isn't much to go on, we know these factions will be introduced by one of the Ubisoft franchises. So who knows, perhaps we could see Rainbow Six Siege or Assassin's Creed inspired factions for one of these seasons. And now that we're looking at the map, as you can see in Season 1, you got faction codenamed Ruby. 3 new weapons, 3 new maps, 90 tier battle pass. Let me just pull up some quick math here on my calculator. That'd be 4 new factions, 12 new guns, 12 new maps, and 360 battle pass tiers. Looking at this map should get you a lot more confident in what we can see from XDefiant, and they have a concrete plan with even the names of the factions that are going to come out. That's the roadmap there, and I couldn't be more excited to see what XDefiant has in its future. I'm really excited just to see how the game will play after a couple months, and even to get my hands on it for the first time will be also a lot of fun. Like I mentioned, I hope you guys subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. We'll be covering all things XDefiant, and you don't want to miss it. So once again, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you later.